That was Twist and Shout by the Beatles. Did you know that you can perform Twist and Shout and La Bamba at the same time and all the tunes and the harmonies fit? I once mysteriously played the organ, and I mean the church organ, in a performance such as that. So, during your time at Bradford, you married your first wife, Jennifer. You graduated PhD in 1969 with a thesis called Molecular Processes at Atomically Clean Metal Surfaces. That doesn't mean very much to me. Perhaps you could elucidate.
Molecular processes is simply a posh way for saying chemistry. Surfaces, it turns out, have a fascinating and unique chemistry of their own. And this is particularly true of what are called clean surfaces, which do not have any layers of rubbish on top of them. Clean surfaces are very difficult to make and even more difficult to keep. And at the time when I was starting my research, we were generally becoming available a technique called ultra-high vacuum, which allowed us to do both of those things. And it was a particularly exciting time to be involved in research. Where atomically clean surfaces have come into their own these days is in the catalytic converter that you undoubtedly have under your car. The surfaces in there are things like palladium and platinum and rhodium. And on a good day, they really are atomically clean.
You spent a year as a postgraduate research fellow at the University of California at Berkeley. I gather you loved it there. Of course, by then your first daughter Claire had been born.
Claire was born on the 24th of July 1970, and we took off to California at the end of September. Fortunately, she was a good traveller. It turned out to be a completely fabulous year again. Wonderful area, superb climate, world-class university and equipment. I actually, believe it or not, had an apparatus which I gold-plated myself. And the research went really well. I was lucky to have a particularly gifted supervisor who only just missed out on the Nobel Prize a few years later in 2007.
From 1971 to 1980, you were back in Bradford as a research fellow and then lecturer, during which time your second daughter Louisa was born. Then in 1980, you moved to the BP Research Centre at Sunbury. Was this as big a change as it sounds?
No, it wasn't, because BP had supported my research in Bradford and we knew each other quite well. And they paid very well, which made a transition from a relatively cheap part of the country to an incredibly expensive part of the country doable.
Strangely, I was living just down the road from you in Staines at the time you were in Sunbury.
And you conducted my daughter on one occasion, I think, in Surrey Heath Youth Orchestra.
Oh, God, I didn't know that. Yes. Right, we'll pursue that later. Now to your fifth record. Tell us about this.
This is Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro. This has been a favourite forever. I bought the LPs in 1964 with Senna Uranat sang The Countess. I've seen it in Belfast, I've seen it at the Proms, in Norwich and in Vienna. But it's also the first opera that Liz, who is now my second wife, went to when we started seeing each other in 1996. The start of the ensemble at the end of the second act sees just two characters singing, the Countess and the Count. It builds up, Susanna and Figaro join in, and by the end they've been joined by Don Basilio, Marcellina and Dr. Bartolo. So there are 7 people singing completely independent lines, and Antonio the gardener has been and gone by this point. So it's just fabulous ensemble singing, and I can think of nothing more to say about it than that.